Lynn, thank you so much for being on the Woo Report.
Unbelievable. I love it. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. I love what you're doing.
Oh.
So let's jump into it. What is happiness mapping? What is it?
Yeah, what is that? It's a process where we sit together and we look at your specific thumbprint of strengths, values, and love languages. And that gives you a great handle on looking at any situation in life.
Incredible. So, why would somebody do it? Why is somebody I need to go do a happiness mapping?
People, if they have any kind of a conundrum, if they're wondering what to do with a different career, I'm having difficulty at work. My spouse and I are offbeat, but also I think it's very much in the realm of coaching. So let's say somebody feels good, but they want to feel great. Like they really want to be in flow in their life. I had a very busy restaurant. And actually, when you take those tests, my leadership strength is really low. And so as the restaurant grew, which it did every year, I had to find a way to marshal the troops, to get us to work together well. And I was out for a walk, and it just came to me. You need to be a happiness coach. And I didn't even know what that meant. I didn't even know what the word happiness, we know what happiness is, but I really didn't understand what my spirit or subconscious was telling me. What does that mean? And so that was back in 98. And it was right at the beginning of the burgeoning of the positive psychology starting with Marty Seligman and the Gallup Institute. And so when I started to look into, what is happiness? And really, I read a book by Mike Csikszentmihalyi, which was on flow. And flow is that state where time goes away, you're absolutely focused. It can be hard what you're doing, but you're completely immersed. And then what comes after it, after you come out of that state, is this residue of joy, satisfaction, an ebullience. And so that's what I started to study, was how could I and the people I work with be in more of a flow state at work? And so as time rolled on, a few years passed, and we people in the industry came up with some really fantastic tests. So I have them take these tests, the VIA, which is your values test, it looks at values, and then the Strengths Finder, and that is how we make decisions in the day, just many, many decisions in a day. And I've never found, between that and the VIA strengths test and the love language, I haven't found any better tests that have helped us to find that flow state. So the strengths, it's almost like how our brain is wired in a sense. And we have what I call a thumbprint of happiness, or a thumbprint of flow, that if you know your thumbprint, we have a nomenclature around it, words around it, and we can share those words with each other. And we are more likely to be able to put ourselves in situations where we are in that flow state on a regular basis, on an everyday basis. And I feel that the residue from that kind of action, from that kind of work, it's accumulative. It accumulates. So your flow sense, or that being in that state, accumulates over time. And then you become basically what I would like for people to be as self-mappers, explorers of their own map. And so I developed this technique that I used with, thousands of employees, customers, friends, anybody I could, I started doing it, and then it was word of mouth. Does that give you kind of an idea of the beginning of it?
It does. You're figuring out people's strengths, and then what? What does the map
look like? Okay, so let's look at yours. So you've got, your top strength is positivity. You're very positive. Tell me if this is right or wrong.
Feels right.
You don't like negative people. Is that?
Don't love them, but
Don't love them. Will, with your belief, possibly your belief strength, you can maybe encompass that because you think you can develop them. You think you can possibly help them to grow. Is that possible?
yeah.
Maybe something like that.
Yes.
And, I wanted to ask you a few questions. So, with your positivity, do you wake up in a happy state? Or is it,
Yes.
you do? Oh my God. I looked at your strengths and I'm like, I would like to be her friend just for always.
We are friends now, Lynn.
I mean,
We're friends now.
wow. I mean, look at your positivity as a number one strength. And then you've got connectivity as your second strength. And generally, the way people have described connectivity to me is they feel that all things are connected and that your actions are connected as well. So if you harm something, it's harming yourself. If you do something good, it's doing good for all. Is that how that feels?
Yes. I mean, also connectedness and that we are all one is kind of a basis of spirituality. I'm on this new path of spirituality in the last few years. I've always believed in something bigger than myself, but the idea that we are all connected and that we are all one, it hasn't resonated until recently. It's now a new understanding of the universe. We are all connected.
And so did that belief come to you after the accident? Is that?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that. Like, were you unhappy during that time?
So, right, when I look back, my baseline was a turbulent mind. So I thought I was happy. I mean, on paper, I looked happy. In photos, I looked happy. Like, I still think, I don't think that I was sad.
Right.
I did not have peace, which now for me, post accident and like on this spiritual journey, I have found a sense of like a calmness in my head that is so much better to hang out in
Yeah, right.
than
do you
it was
think,
before.
right. Isn't that really interesting?
Yes.
So do you think that, okay, the love of seeing people grow, do you feel that?
Yes.
Yes, that's your developer strength. So do you see that in relationship to yourself? So like,
Yes.
see what I'm saying? Like that developer strength can actually identify that you had this growth spurt of
Oh, yes.
spirituality. Do you think that is true?
Yes. Huge. I mean, basically, it changed my life.
Right.
Like, I say the accident was the best thing that ever happened to me because it became this reset and
Right.
this new perspective. And all I did was grow through it and
Right.
recognize, all the little things, spirituality that you maybe even glaze over when you think about spiritual things. You're like, meditation, manifestation, all of these kind of like big ticket items. But it really is how you talk to yourself in your head.
Right.
That is, for me, I had a really sharp tongue with myself. That I think was one of the biggest changes because I just I'd be like, oh, I messed that up. I can't believe I
Right.
messed that up.
Right.
Just like, why did you mess that up?
Right. Right.
Over and over and over again
Right.
on a repeat tone. And, and then of course my mind is turbulent if that's my cycle as I go
Right.
through the day.
Right. So do you think that also, that kind of being mean to yourself played against your positivity? Your like that.
Yeah.
The thing about the strengths is we think almost to a person that everyone is like us. And when they don't act like us, we just think they're dumb. But really what you find, part of the process of mapping happiness is that you start to identify your own strengths. It's easy to think everyone is kind of like you, but they're really not. And so it's an amazing, like, eye-opening experience to start to see what you are at that sense of who you are, like at the core of it. And then to realize that you're living with someone that has different strengths and your best friend is, and we may know that they're different, but when you start to get those words around it, like for instance, your husband has a strength called achiever, which people with the achiever strength, they wake up and they've got to do things every day. And that means every single day. That means, vacation. It doesn't matter what kind of a day it is, but, they go and go and go. Would you say that's kind of?
Well, it's so interesting because since Matt, my husband Matt, met with you and you did a mapping together, and he came down so animated, so excited. He was like lit up. He was like, "Oh my God, I know what makes me happy in a day."
Love it.
It was incredible because, Matt is very chill.
Yeah.
He is a very chill guy.
He's a lovely person, yeah.
He's such a sweetheart. Not a whole lot gets him lit up. The Buffalo Bills
I love
get
it.
him lit up.
Yeah.
Michigan football used to do that.
Yeah.
And otherwise, he's pretty even keeled. He loves a dance party. He's got a little bit of swag. He's like, he's a cool guy. But to get him to come down and be like, I want to tell you about my happiness mapping, I was like, Lynn, get on Lynn, we need to talk. That was incredible because he really felt like, and I've thought about it so many times because, with our work schedules being so different right now than they used to be, we're in this new place where I'm now thinking, okay, what's Matt doing today?
Yeah.
What's he got on his list so that, he feels like he can check those things off. I can help him make a list.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help him make that list of things to check off. I got stuff I want to get done.
Which is hilarious because, achievers actually do like people helping them with their lists often. Does he like that?
Yes.
Yes, he loves it, right?
Oh my gosh. When I try, I'm like, can you go get groceries? He's like, what do we need?
I love it.
And I'm like, well,
That's funny.
the regular things that we get every time, the things that aren't in the fridge.
Right.
Open the door and look at them.
Oh, he wants the list.
I know. But he was pacing around this morning and I was about to walk into my office and I was like, all right.
Do you need a honey-do list?
He was like trying to figure out what we should eat this weekend. And I was like, okay. So we could do tacos, we could do quesadillas. Like I'm just like here's what we can do with the kids. I know. But it's so helpful because it's helpful for me to know.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I would just be like, oh, can't you just do it? Because I wouldn't ask him. I'd say, got anything to add?
Yeah.
Because anything extra that you need? Because I would have already thought about the weekend, thought about the list, figured it out. And just you need what? Deodorant? I'll add it to the list.
Right. Isn't it funny how, okay, so if you look at achievers in general, they love a to-do list, they love checking it off, and they think every day starts at 0 and they've got to start over with the to-do thing. But they really can appreciate someone adding their list, like even someone with good organization or somebody that thinks ahead, because they're not necessarily the people that think ahead. Now, I'm not saying Matt is or isn't, but I mean...
Honey, he is not.
Right, okay. So that's what I thought, adaptability, right? So, the thing is, he would love help with that to-do list. And so you don't have to feel guilty about giving him a lot to do. And you don't have to judge him because he can't make up enough of a to-do list for himself to be happy. Does that make sense?
I mean, you are a modern day marriage counselor, but call it happiness mapping and do it separately and then help me figure out how to make it work. Yeah, because
it's powerful in between couples and children.
It is.
Because we always think the children, we use our own strengths to raise them, but they've got their own thumbprint. And so, the earlier you can kind of start to understand, oh, wow, that's a different thing,
Oh, man, that's so interesting. I would love to do my 7-year-old. Is he too young?
Yeah. No, I've done 7-year-olds.
Wow.
Isn't that funny? But, the thing is, they have strengths. And, I did a 7-year-old who's now, I guess he's got in the mid-20s, something like that. And he said he never forgot his strengths.
Wow.
Isn't that funny?
That's incredible.
Yeah. But the other thing, with your developer, I wanted to know, do you feel more like you get joy out of children developing or adults or both? Or do you have a discernment of that?
So I feel like it's harder with my own kids. I feel like I was better with kids before they were mine. I think that I have a lot of blind spots with my own kids that I've got a lot of work there to do. But the developer, I feel like I've always kind of been a mentor in the workspace. As soon as I started to become a producer, and you have an associate producer or production assistants, and they don't know how to do anything. You're literally I felt like I was constantly teaching people the ropes, and I have women now that I've taught them everything that they know, and they are producers now and doing great and beautiful things, and they'll be like, "You taught me everything I know."
Yeah, isn't that thrilling for you?
Yes,
yes,
I love
right.
That. Yes,
isn't that ironic? Like, I don't have that strength at all. Very, very low for me, and so that thrill. Mapping happiness for me has to do with my strategic maximizer. So I pick the best path for strength to be played out. And I have a love of taking something good to great. Excellence. And so that's where I get a thrill. But like the developer, the teaching part, I can't teach. I'm a terrible teacher. I'm a good coach, but a terrible teacher. Also with the strengths and the values. What I've noticed is we all have a dialect of the strengths and let's say the love languages, like words of appreciation. Well, I'll give you an example from me. I have quality time as a love language. And I was engaged to this guy that I would say to him, "You never tell me you love me." And he's like, "I'm always telling you I love you." And I'm like, "What?" Until I started to do this mapping. And then I realized every time he was in the room, he was always squeezing me, hugging me, putting a little kiss. But because touch is my third love language, I never heard him. It didn't mean anything to me because he never wanted to spend a lot of time together. And so for, let's say, quality time love language, some people will feel loved when they're in the same room doing different things. Some people will feel quality time over the phone. Like I feel this is quality time. So for me, I feel very loved. Thank you so much. You're awesome.
I love you.
Same. And so we all have dialects of those love languages and strengths. Do you feel now with this new time in your life that belief, that your belief strength, that is what this podcast is about, right? Is exploring, and is that right?
Yes, I feel like when I saw my strengths, so what are they? They're positivity, connectivity, developer, belief,
and
woo, which which is hilarious. So woo, I laughed out loud. I ran into the other room and showed Matt. I texted it to my friend Amy. Shout out Amy Dirksen, who's the reason why I'm here with Lynn. And was just like, I love that one of my 5 strengths on how many strengths are there?
Right. There's 34.
There's 34 strengths. One of my 5, after you answer all of these, so many questions,
right,
is woo. It's woo. And this is the epitome of what this podcast is about.
Right.
That is a synchronicity for me.
Right.
That is showing me I am on the right path.
Yeah.
No, the woo in the strengths test does not mean woo woo. Doesn't mean woo woo. It means winning others over.
But it does, your belief does, ironically.
But belief does. Okay,
yes.
So belief means woo-woo, right?
Yes,
belief is like the spirituality piece.
Yes.
That's so funny.
Yes.
So I feel like all 5 of those encapsulates what I'm trying to do with the Woo Report, which is to develop people.
Yeah, you're connecting.
One-on-one. I'm connecting with you, but I'm also connecting with people that are listening.
Right.
And I'm I'm just trying to unlock the light within people.
Right. So you're taking your positivity, your connectivity, totally, right?
Yeah.
Your positivity, your connectivity, developer, you're bringing up the vibration, the beliefs, reinforcing the goodness of life. Is that right? Which is your belief. And then winning others over, which is, turning strangers into friends. Isn't that just amazing? That
it just makes me feel like this is exactly what I should be doing,
Me too.
And we're recording this. Thank you, Lynn. We're recording this, of course, before episode 1 is even live. So
great. Well, that's so interesting.
Feels like we're on the right path.
I'd say you were.
But, this is all very new. So
it's like a new endeavor.
It's a new endeavor. And I'm a filmmaker, producer first. So what you say about connectivity and wanting strangers to be just another friend.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what for me, documentary filmmaking is all about, being curious about other people's journeys and being curious about their lives and why they're there and what got them there and what the belief system got them there. And, I finished a documentary on this nonprofit hospice. Is all about death and dying. You'd think that would be sad, but it's full of compassion and love and hope. And it lifts the veil a little bit because there's woo-woo in there. There's a lot of woo-woo in dying.
Yeah, right. I agree
but
with
it
you.
all aligns.
Right. Isn't that interesting? So, as a mapper, as a person that has seen a lot of maps and worked with a lot of people, I would say with your strengths, you have 100% hit your strengths. But
I'm waking up happy every day because I feel a sense of purpose around all of these things that I want to create. All I want to do is create and make things.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard about human design?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So I'm kind of new into it too, but I'm a manifesting generator, and one of it, it maps out all of your gifts, and my number one gift is creating things.
Not surprising at all.
And I've been creating things my whole career, but I haven't been creating things for me. I've been creating things for Disney and the Ellen Show and a bunch of others.
Well, also on your VIA, the strengths, those values, you have hope. And isn't it interesting how, the stories that you've just told me, they bring hope, even to the dying. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
Do you feel that? Do you feel hopeful?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. Well, I just saw a quote, which I'll probably butcher, but it's hope and fear are both things you cannot see. But it's your choice.
Yeah, right, exactly.
They're both things you can't see. You get to choose which one.
Amazing.
You know about my story now. I came out of my body, and after that, I have not feared dying.
Yeah.
And so I think that once you don't fear dying, really, what is there to fear?
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean? Isn't that the ultimate?
Yeah, that's
I don't
the
know.
ultimate. Well, it's interesting because I just started, I want to say a month ago, I had this idea that I wanted to start a conversation with my death. So I started and I write in notes, and so it's titled, Hi, Death. And so
I love this.
Well,
this is right up my alley.
It's really informative. And, I always thought of death as an old dude, I don't know where I got that idea, but probably because that's,
that's what we see in the
there,
movies. Right? Yes, of course.
But I've realized that's not my death. My personal death looks very different from that. But I had to, I'm still investigating it. It's kind of like I investigate AI. It's why not be curious about all these forces, around us and our personal death?
So now I'm going to ask you the question I've been asking everyone else on this podcast that is super existential. Mm-hmm. What do you think happens when you die?
Well, the way I feel it, and, I just read a poem by Mary Oliver, and I wrote a poem about this, and for me, the way it feels is that I will become many things. I'll be in the snake belly. I will become a piece of printer paper. I will be the tree out back. So I guess I see it as becoming one with many things.
I love that. That's so beautiful.
I don't know, but having the conversation with death, which means that this life is finite in the way that we know it. And I feel that to make decisions with that parameter is really important.
Yes.
Because we feel like we're just going to live forever, and my parents, they practically did, but I came back here to take care of them. I cared for them as they died for the last 5 years. And, when you're up close and personal with death, and I almost died as well several times, you come out of that in a different way. you come out of that in a different way. Wouldn't you say that's true for you?
I would agree with you. Yeah, it cracks you open.
Yeah, it does. But it's also keeping the awareness of it close, because it's easy to move on.com and not keep that awareness alive. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really important for me to have that relationship, that one-on-one relationship with my death.
So you said you almost died many times?
Not many times, but sometimes. I was really ill. I started getting sick in my 40s, and they couldn't figure out what it was. And I had a heart attack at 46, a very strange heart attack called Takotsubo, and I just kept getting sicker and sicker. And it's ultimately why I had to close the restaurant. But finally, I moved to the West Coast, and I found a doctor that was really good at diagnostic. And they figured out that I'd been living in black mold. And we found it in my loft in Louisville. I lived in this 20-foot, it had these huge walls, and the ceiling had an HVAC along the top, and it had just been coating the inside of the drywall with black mold, but you couldn't see it.
Oh my gosh.
So, certain people get sick from that, and I got really, really sick. And then, I had some operations that went wrong, simple things, but I almost bled to death once, and the heart attack was close,
Oh
so
God.
The thing is, we go through those moments, and I think it's easy to forget them, easy to put them behind you. But it seems to me like you have kept that awareness closer and become more of who you feel you are. Is that true?
I think it's because I identify now this shift, this big shift that happened in my life from this moment of the accident. And to me, I've just kind of like earmarked that time in my life as like a spiritual awakening. Yeah. People see spirituality and woo-woo, and they're like, okay.
Yeah,
like,
whatever.
We can't see those things, discounting them. And I was the same way. I was kind of the same way. My dad's a hypnotherapist.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I'm easily hypnotizable, I hate to admit.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
Hilarious.
That's good. You're like allowing, you're trusting
Well,
in
it also
yourself.
got me to do some crazy dancing, but go ahead, yes.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, I love it. Yeah, he used to do those comedy hypnosis shows too. But now he... but I've been rolling my eyes at him since I was a kid. Like, okay, Dad, you're hypnotizing people. Cool. Like, that's really awesome.
Did he ever hypnotize you?
Well, yes, he claims all of my success is from these sleep tapes that he used to make me.
You're like, yes, it was, Dad. Yes, it was.
He's like, yes. He's like, I used to play you these tapes when you would fall asleep about how successful you're going to be. And look at you now.
Wow.
But yeah, he's he is a healer in his own right. Yeah. And he is very positive.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
Yes, he is a lover of life, and I definitely get a lot from him. I believe it now way more than I ever did after this accident. Like I knew he could help because during COVID, Matt's a little bit of a hypochondriac, and during COVID, he was really unwell,
scared
at the top. Yeah, he was scared. My dad was in Philly. We were in LA.
Yeah,
he's like, let's do a Zoom and I'll hypnotize you. Matt's like, what do I got to lose? I'm sitting here. Will was napping. I'm working in the other room. I was still at the Ellen Show at the time, and they did a session, and Matt was like, he just closed his eyes. He felt like really heavy, and it changed him.
Oh,
it helped him.
Gosh.
And he would be the first one to be like, no, it didn't work. And it totally did, because it really changed. It really unclicked something in his unconscious.
Right.
That helped him feel safe and not be afraid. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, believer. I know.
So your belief in things that are larger than you, that are unseen.
Yes.
Right. Is that what you're exploring in this podcast?
Yes. So, and it's everything. There's so much that we can't see in the woo-woo culture and the spiritual world. There's so much we can see. It's our consciousness. It's energy. it's auras, it's numerology and how that plays in, it's astrology, it's mediums and talking to people behind it, signs from the other side. I mean, so much, all of it, like past lives, you know, what soul families, the idea that we're all souls and we're gonna teach each other lessons and then we're gonna go back up and then rearrange how we're all settled and come back down, do it again. I mean, that's so fun to think about. It's all I want to think about.
It's amazing. See, that is your strengths. That is connectivity, belief.
Yes.
I mean, amazing.
Wow. Thank you.
You found your way. You know,
I mean, we got to monetize this, Lynn. That's what
I'm saying.
That's the other piece of it. That's a big piece of it.
You You absolutely do. So you can continue to do it for the world. So there's also your filmmaking, right?
Yes.
And do you do primarily documentary?
Yes. So Chelsea Park Films, the mission of Chelsea Park Films is to platform nonprofits and organizations doing good in the world.
Wow.
The thing is, like, I'm a one-woman show, and so what you're not going to get from me is like a cinematic masterpiece.
Yeah,
and
that's all right.
But I thrive in the storytelling and in the safe space to interview people telling their stories.
Yeah.
Because if you have this big, cold production company come in
I know.
and sit at the bedside of someone who's dying, like, how intimate is that?
No.
But I've, you know, since done promotional pieces for these nonprofits who are boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And they are making a difference in people's lives.
Amazing.
And so, but I can do that as a one-woman show. Like, I can shoot it all, I can edit it, and it sounds good and it looks good. It's not gonna, you know, win Sundance. It's not gonna win an Oscar.
Well, don't say it won't.
I know. I have to stop doing that.
Because your storytelling, I mean, really, I'll tell you the two things that I think are the most important things in storytelling. I think the sound and I think the story. Really, story and then sound. I mean, you can have okay visuals or not even, you know what I mean?
You're right, Lynn. I mean, they teach you that in film school, Lynn. Did you go to film school?
I did.
What? You did?
I moved to LA and I went to 2 years of film in their, you know, their not, you know, it's like the community thing, but, you know, a lot of hires came out of that.
That's
I was just
incredible.
so interested because I was on television a lot with the restaurant, and I always wanted to learn how I could do it better and what happened behind the scenes, you know, that kind of thing. So
incredible. You've had so many lives. The entrepreneurial spirit over here.
Yeah, I've done. That's because I didn't get married or have children.
Oh my gosh.
A lot more time.
That's true.
But you know what? Speaking of that, what I've also noticed with both you and Matt is you both have extremely strong values around family. Can you tell me about that a little? Is that true? Do you?
Yeah, I mean, Matt and I have been together for 20 years.
Oh, wow. When you were 4?
We were 20. We were 21. I was 21. I just turned 40.
That's hard to believe.
I know.
That is.
You're so nice.
Shocking. Go ahead.
Yes. So I just turned 40 in November. So yeah, it's been almost 20 years since we started dating. So we were together, you know, all through our come up in LA.
Wow.
And we didn't, you know, we got married at like, I don't know, so I was 29, and then we had a kid at 31, and then and then I got run over by a car while I was pregnant. And he took care of me, and he took care of my kid.
Yeah.
And he was just steadfast and loyal, and he's just the best.
Well, you know, also you with your love of you know, words of appreciation, and you both have that as your number one. That is a very powerful motivating force as you feel it. Don't you feel that when someone says really good things, viscerally you see it or feel it? Is that true?
It is. It is. Totally. And when I was doing the love language test, I was like laying in bed next to him. He was like guessing which one I was going to do. And you guessed most of them right. And then we like kind of, you know, there's so many questions. Yeah, so you have been mapping since
99.
Yeah. What type of people come to you? Is it all different types of people from all walks of life? I know you said you did it for some employees to kind of help your workplace culture a little bit more. Like, is it something that you would bring into Companies, yes.
Yes, I've done companies. You bring it, really, I haven't met someone that it doesn't work with. And like I say, I've done thousands of people and of all age ranges, all backgrounds, many circumstances. So, and I used to say, if it works with a dishwasher, it'll work with anybody. We have dishwashers, right? And
Yes.
that is a tough job.
Dishwashers in the restaurants that you were running.
Yes.
Right.
It was really hard.
Yes.
But it really worked. And so,
Like give me an example. Like, so how are you
I'll
making the
give you an
dishwasher
example.
happier?
Oh my gosh. Okay, this was crazy. So I had this guy, I think he was my longest working employee, and he was a dishwasher and was, he stayed there, didn't want to, go into the kitchen or out front or anything like that. But we mapped, and it ended up that one of his strengths was futuristic. And these are people that love to dwell about the future. And he, we talked about this, and it kind of came into his consciousness, and he ended up getting one of those tickets for the last shuttle thing down in Florida, when it went up. And so he got to go and experience, that. And like, would you have ever known that kind of thing about an employee? But he was thrilled that, number one, we supported him at work with that, but also that, that he found that in himself, and he had a word for it, and he knew how he could grow it in a sense.
Wow.
So it doesn't always just deal with work, but with work, what we did is we had, instead of dividing up according to your like general manager, this, that, and the other, we would divide activities up into strengths. So in other words, if you're really good at, say, a ranger, which those people love to put things they know exactly how to put things together. They can arrange all different kinds of things.
Wow. That is not a skill of mine.
Yeah, mine either. Right. So we were able to divide the business up with strengths versus another way, and that's really how I led.
Oh, that's awesome.
With the strengths.
That makes so much more sense. Okay, so tell me, how unique is a map for someone?
Oh gosh, they are completely unique. I mean, completely. What I wanted to do, and I still hope I can do it, is I wanted to make it physical, like actually draw the maps.
Yes.
And I wanted to put it on shower curtains, because then you're in the shower and you're slowly washing your hair and you're like, oh yeah, input. Yeah, God, I need to get in a learning situation.
Wow.
Because you're so subconscious in the shower, right?
Totally.
That room.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, each one is completely unique. I mean, because there's so many variables. And not only that, I mean, we look at the strengths, the values, and the love language, but what we really look at is your life. We look back, in current situations, we look back, and your experience really points in the directions. Like, for instance, the way you said before the accident, that you had a busy mind, that was, there was no quiet in it. It's like we look back and what strengths were you playing against there? What were you not using, or what was being played against? And often what we find out is that during times where we're really unhappy, we're not playing to our flow state. And so it's interesting. I'm writing a book about mapping, and so I'm going back through my life, and I'm looking at my life through the lens of the strengths and the values. For example, my parents definitely did not have my number one value, which was a love of beauty and excellence. So we lived in these houses that I thought were ugly, and we lived in this, I mean, they were neat, but I grew up in this circumstance where it was like, what? And it wasn't until I actually took that test and started to understand, wow, I really have a need for a beautiful surrounding for myself, that I was able to get that for myself. Because you can also I grew up with 3 achievers, my sister and my mom and dad. And achiever is very low on my tests. But I see it kind of as, I always felt guilty that I wasn't one. So in the restaurant and in the businesses that I had, I surround myself with achievers because I activate, I ideate, I maximize, but then I need a lot of help getting things done. And so you can't be everything. That's the thing.
Wow. So when you've mapped 1,000 people, have you had stories of people that have, after they've mapped, come back to you and they've done a crazy change in their life or?
Yeah, definitely. They've changed careers. I can't say they've ever changed partners, but it's gotten much better with their marriage. They've dealt with their kids so much better because they've started to look at their children as their own thumbprint, uniquely, and be able to give them support for their strengths.
Oh my gosh.
That's a big one, really.
I would love to have Will work with you.
Yeah, it's really, it's amazing to see the dawning, once you have your own map and start to put the names around that sense that you have, because we think everybody feels like us, primarily
right.
But when we start to realize we're unique and that's flow state, we can start to see that, achiever feels just like positivity when you really get it. That feeling of connectedness can be brought about by having a to-do list. Can you believe that? Isn't that crazy?
Honestly, this makes us a perfect match, Matt and I.
It does, really. It really does.
I've never wanted to give him a to-do list, but I am so happy to do that now. And I am going to do that. Interesting when you were talking about, my before the accident, I feel like if I would have to take the tests that you gave me before the accident, they would have been different than they are after the accident.
Interesting. Well, I've had quite a few people over long periods of time, years, take them, and I certainly have taken them. And what I have found, primarily, at least for myself and the people that I've mapped, is, let's say we have a top 10. Depending on our circumstances, we can pull on. Now, some people are solidly in what they're in their whole lives. They just are so, their brain is wired in a certain way and it just successfully works in that way. Others are more fluid. I've never seen somebody completely change. I was curious about your belief. My guess is that maybe with, let's say, your belief, you had not done enough investigation with it. You had not forefronted it in a sense. Is that
yeah,
true,
maybe, because I also wonder about the connectedness.
Yeah.
Because I wonder whether I would have believed. I have
feeling of
connectedness. I feel like maybe that wouldn't have been. And I feel like I probably would have had, maybe more of an achiever, but more of something, whatever, the ego, whatever, what's high on a high ego, I probably would have done that. I feel like that is where I was well, I am really good at X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's, there's a strength called significance. And significance, they love to be seen well in the eyes of others. And I used to always think that was superficial. I had a lot of judgment around that. But then when I started mapping people with that strength, I realized, wow, that's a great strength. And so, once again, I was very judgmental with what I wasn't. And then I've really come around to see, oh, wow. And the difference really that you could tell is when you feel super happy about it. Not because we're forced to do it from trauma or from the zeitgeist of society. For instance, competitive. I used to always think, oh, that's terrible, but it's just very low for me. And then I've mapped a lot of people with competition strength, and they love to win,
Yeah,
and
I feel like that's my 7-year-old.
Yeah, that could be, very much so. And so, and there's dark sides to all the strengths in a sense,
Yes.
Say my input strength. If I let that just dominate my life, all I'd do is read. I would never get anything done. I would never, I would just input and input and input, and that's not healthy.
Right.
But I guess I've come to, my mind has been made so much more open in being able to see other people's strengths and see how they play out in a really positive way. So it's made me much less judgmental about people.
I mean, it's such a gift that you're helping people with.
Oh,
I mean, because we could all take the tests, but then we're just looking at them and we're like, it's so much more helpful to process them with someone who knows them deeply.
Yeah. Yeah, because it would be fun if we had time to really look at those strengths, maybe entertain some other strengths, and just look at before and after what happened. That would be very interesting.
So did you see a conundrum in my chart?
The developer pushes you to see the growth, to facilitate growth in others. Mm-hmm. And I wondered, are you getting enough of that? And what does that look like? And what do you think? Do you think you are?
Well, I think that's a big part of this podcast.
Yeah.
Because the point of it is to open people up to maybe other ways of receiving support from something that maybe they would have been like, this is a bunch of woo-woo beforehand. Yeah, or something like that. So it's just like, I have witnessed in my smaller circle, just seeing how supportive some of these, spiritual modalities can be. And, I think that as a culture, we're all moving towards mindfulness and wellness. So it's in that same mind, but it's really like deep diving into the stuff that you can't see.
Right.
Which has a lot of, belief and hope. And so, my hope is that my story resonates with people and that this journey resonates with people, because it really has changed my life. And so my hope is that it just helps people feel that that switch. Honestly, that's been one of the best parts. Obviously, the fragility of life and being in the present moment and looking at my kids in the eyes, all of those things are, you're trying not to take every single moment for granted, every single piece of the present for granted. But having peace in your mind is that is what success looks like to me.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And so many of us are bombarded by headlines, fear, technology, kids' busy lives, this sport, that sport, husband needs this, whatever. Just running a household and you're on the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
And the only way to get off that hamster wheel is if there's some sort of peace. Everyone's different. So I'm hoping, maybe somebody will be like, ooh, maybe I need a happiness map, or maybe I'll go out and, bathe under the full moon.
Yeah, right, exactly. So do you feel that you're getting enough of that in a day?
Well, I feel like I could have these conversations all day long. All I do all day.
That's what I was thinking, is that the podcast is one thing, but it's only that would cause it to be a rather smaller set over time. So what I'm wondering is, as a mapping happiness person, you always get happiness homework. And so
I love it.
What I wonder is, if you really think about your developer with, and the way it's connected to all your other strengths, you may need to put in a daily basis more opportunity to actually bring people on to one-on-one teach of something, and along with your beliefs and things. So, I just wonder if there's a way for you to get more of that every day. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. It does. Why don't you charge for this?
Well, it started out that I did it for my employees.
Right.
Friends and customers. It was something that I gave back, I guess, is how I looked at it. And then I never really developed a business around it. I had other businesses that it supported, that made the culture what I wanted. And now I'm looking to make a turn. So I'm writing this book, which for me is a big endeavor. I mean, it's a very interesting and difficult thing to write an autobiography. Putting mapping in a more professional setting. So I think that's probably my next step. But while I'm writing the book, it really helps me to map. Because when I map, I'm able to more freely write, not necessarily about the people I'm mapping, but it just excites me in a way that nothing else does. And so it gets my juices flowing, and it gets me able to write, about the book.
So it puts you in flow,
Puts
essentially.
me in flow. Yeah, mapping totally plays to all my strengths. Yep.
I love it. Will you say a little piece again about, you had mentioned about being in flow. Can you kind of just tell me that part again?
Yeah. So what happiness mapping does is it gives you your own specific thumbprint of flow. And flow are those activities where you would do without being paid at all. Time goes away. You're completely engrossed. Now you might be challenged in that time. It's not saying that it's easy, but it's absolutely like your brain and body and soul are totally together and focused on something. And the residue of flow is a sense of joy and a sense of accomplishment and a sense of happiness. So that's really what I look to increase in people's lives on a daily basis, not just an aha, but really on a daily basis, because I think that's important, because it's a cumulative, joy is.
I love that so much.
Then, for instance, with you, like winning others over, you know that you have to have enough strangers in a day, in a week, in a month to charm, in a sense. But when you're feeling flat, you need strangers.
Isn't that wild? When I'm feeling flat, I need strangers.
I know that sounds totally strange, but
not what I would have, but that is so interesting.
So it's like determining your specific language around it.
And I do that by just some trial and error, or just like feeling into it, or by talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the way that you become a self-mapper is you start to notice. You don't just gloss over what that sense is, that feeling of flow, that feeling, but you start to notice it. And so it's almost the initial mapping, or, even if it's just one mapping, it gives weight to that feeling. And it gives you some words around how to get more of it. And so it starts the process of the awareness of it. Instead of it just coming and going throughout the day and us not really knowing why it is there and when it isn't.
Right.
Like why do we feel flat? Does that make sense? Do you see?
Yes.
You can get filled back up by
Yes.
looking at those strengths. You develop ways that are specific to you to feel in that flow state.
I love this. I feel like I need to sit down with Matt and look at our strengths,
Yeah,
and then
it's really exciting.
honestly figure out, like, okay, on a flat day,
Yes.
how can we help each other?
Totally.
Because that can change the whole dynamic of bad days.
Yeah, I mean, and we can always look at that together. We can sit down and just, look at that together, because we all have those days. Like, for instance, if I'm feeling really challenged or down or, whatever that is, I know specifically if I make a move towards making something beautiful in my home. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. Literally, I'm flower farming, but I also love plastic flowers. Is that hilarious?
I
So,
love it.
this morning, I was a little nervous about the podcast, and I'm like, okay, what I can do is I'm going to arrange these plastic flowers so I can have flowers outside my back door. Isn't that hilarious? Whatever.
I love
But,
that.
I was able to not dwell in that stress, but help myself.
Well, there's nothing crush this podcast.
Oh.
You crushed it. And you are crushing life, because this truly,
Hilarious.
this is such a gift that you're giving people, being able to have language around their strengths, around what will make them happy on a day-to-day basis. Like, isn't that what the whole point is?
Yeah.
Isn't that the whole point?
It's really fun, and it's really fulfilling for me. And I love doing the process. So
It's so awesome.
Oh,
Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much for including me on your podcast.
Lynn,
I really appreciate it.
How can people find you?
Really easy, lynn@mappinghappiness.com. How
Love
much
it.
easier than that? Yep, just send me an email.
Send Lynn an email and get your happiness mapped.
Yeah, yep.
Oh my gosh, Lynn, thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much for
This was so
your
fun.
attention, and what a great family.
Thank
I swear.
you.
Wow. I love the two of you.
Thank you. We love you right
Unbelievable.
back. I cannot wait to tell Matt all about our conversation and about how many to-do lists I'm going to give him.
The two of you are really something.
Oh, thank you.
Really.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, dear.
What did you think? Will you be mapping your happiness? Let me know. And for more tools and unique modalities like this, join the community at thewooreportpodcast.com. It has been so amazing seeing you rate, comment, and seeing all your DMs on the Woo Report's Instagram. Hearing from you brings me such happiness. So thank you. So grateful that you're here. Please subscribe, like, rate, and comment wherever you listened. New eps every Wednesday. And thank you for being here and loving on this little slice of magic. Bye.